We've been waiting for this one, and it's finally here. Peter Loomis joins me. He is a freelance TV director, and he has been a fan of the show. He's got several friends and family that have been a part of this program, and now we get to have him on. Looking forward to seeing how he does. No pressure at all. This is the Honest Something podcast. I'm Brian Fenley, and this is a place where we highlight those who work in sports media, and we don't just keep it to news. We don't keep it to business. We go beyond. We go to the non-superficial and the personal. And I know, Peter, you're very familiar with this. You're now in the interview chair. Are you ready? That's the question I want to know.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me, brother. I know you asked me, you said we've been waiting for this for a while. You asked me 2 years ago. And I thought this was a scam. And then realized you talked to my boy, Rob Reichley. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if it passes his sniff test, then I knew you were legit. So
Well, I'm glad to know that I'm not a scam. And no, this is the
no, you're
furthest thing,
not.
furthest thing from it. And yeah, it does help having fellow friends and colleagues that have been on. And then that's how it all started for me. It was,
Mhm.
hey, one person needs to say yes. And then, oh, so and so is on. Okay, I'll come on. So I'm glad that through that sort of avalanche, or I guess you could call it domino effect, we've got you on. And for you, obviously, when you're a TV director, a lot of what you're doing is anticipating. You are on the front lines of being assertive and trying to think about what's coming next. When you're now in this passive position where I'm throwing you questions and you don't know where I'm going, how do you feel like you're going to handle this? This is a little bit different than the normal scale of work that you're doing.
Well, you say it's anticipating as a director, but it's just as much about living in the moment as well and documenting what's there. So it's, 50-50. I'm ready for it. I'm used to it.
When you were thinking about this summer and what you were going to do, you strike me as somebody who likes to get out of nature and just likes to give yourself an opportunity to just forget about what's going on in the present or when it comes to back home and allow yourself to deprogram and relax. Where do you feel like you can do that the best?
Well, I noticed you just followed me on Instagram, so you obviously saw that big hog of a northern pike I just posted on there. But yeah, I went full blown decompress and get away from technology. So I ended up going up to Canada, doing some fishing, was just catching fish morning, noon, and night. No cell coverage. No, the only reason I had my phone was to take photos and take videos. So it was a great way to decompress and to get back to what's important, and it's experiences and enjoying the moment. But after about 5 days of camping and canoeing and backpacking, I was ready to get back home to the family. I got two boys at home and a wife, and so I was definitely ready to see them, because that was, while I travel and work for a living doing this, and I can still at the end of the day talk to my family, FaceTime and say goodnight, whatever. That was a little weird, being five days or so without being able to talk to them whatsoever.
What's your technique for fishing?
Listen to my old man. I mean, he gets paid to do it, so whatever he tells me to do, I just do what he says.
Gets paid to do it. How did he end up doing something as cool as that?
Well, my dad moved out to Colorado about 15 or so years ago. He's a elk hunting guide, deer hunting guide, fisherman, guides a lot of fly fishing trips. So, he is the man of nature. He's built like the mountain from Game of Thrones too. Dude's 6'6", 250. Just, I mean, he's a tank. So, he looks all the part, and you just, when you're out there in nature, like, it's just easy to just do what he says to do.
What are the chances one of your kids turns into being a mountain, a tank, and
God, I
something like
hope.
that?
Well, my oldest boy is like 98th percentile everything. He's big. Like, I'm 6 foot. I didn't get my dad's genes. I'm just built big, but I'm not tall. Now my kid's 98th percentile everything. The second one is not. So I'm already real concerned that, like, he's gonna be shorter, smaller than my wife's size, like 5'8", like my father-in-law. So I already am like picturing Christmas in a couple years, like, hey, why did Jameson, my big brother, get this nice toy? And it's like, well, son, like, well, you got poor genetics. So, here's the nice toy to make up for it. Here's a great video game, whatever you wanted. And Jameson, the older one, like you got great genetics, so you don't get anything this Christmas because I set you up for life. All right.
Well, I was going to say, so even if he doesn't grow as tall as the older one, where does he have the edge? Where is the advantage for him play in the family dynamics?
I mean, I don't really know. I think, he's good with the laughter. He's just, being only a couple months old, he's sitting there blowing raspberries and makes you laugh at dinner. So maybe he'll be a comedian. We'll go that route.
How much did he learn some of that stuff from you?
I like to have fun and have a good time. It's also part of what I do. Sit in the director chair. I'm not a yeller or a screamer. I know a lot of people say that, but a buddy of mine, Nick Young, fellow director, once said, we teach first and we discipline second. And so that's been a great mantra. And that also helps with the not yelling and screaming. So like, let's have a fun environment. We get to do television for a living. We work in sports for a living. And I'm clearly not used to wearing an IFB, so this thing keeps popping out. So, yeah. I mean, that's I like to have a good time. I think the comedy is a big part of my dad. From a very young age, started teasing me very early, along with my sisters. One of us out of the three learned to deal with teasing pretty well, and the other two not so much. So.
How would you deal with it? In a
Uh,
rebellious
I'll,
way?
I'll just throw it right back at you. I'll start it too.
How about the parallels of parenting and directing television? Where are they?
Mm. Being adaptable, being open-minded, being available for a new experience. Um, you're you have a plan to go in, and anyone who's had a kid knows that you think you might be ready and then you just throw it out the window immediately. I mean, I was driving the first kid I had, I'm driving down the highway at probably like 45 miles an hour, scared out of my mind, leaving the hospital, going home for the first time. Second kid, you're just like, whatever. This is just, you've already been there, you've done that, you're going. But that's probably it. Like you expect the unexpected, and be malleable.
What came across your mind the first time you got to hold your first son?
Don't drop them.
And you've done a pretty good job at that, I'm assuming since.
No, no, no. I'm kind of banking on the sports career at this point. Need those good genetics to really cash in on that free education.
The surprises of being a father, obviously there's so many things that you probably glean from friends and family about what it's like, and then you go into it yourself, and even with all of that prior knowledge built up, what still comes as a shock to you?
That's a good question. Um, well, I don't know. How about I ask you this? Well, you just got married.
I did.
You went to Hawaii. Congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Great choice for a honeymoon spot. I mean, what are we in? Week 3, week 4 here for you?
Yeah, we're week 3, week 4. People ask me, Peter, what's the difference? There's no difference.
Yeah.
We're living in the
No.
same place. We still have the same dog. We're the same people. It's like people are assuming when you get married that like everything changes in your life, and like there's this magnetic difference that pops up in the world you live in, and it's like what are we, Hollywood here? Like
Yeah.
this is the same as is, and I think that's actually a good thing. I don't know about
Mhm.
you, but when you get to a place where it nothing changes and it's the same as is, while keeping the spark, I think that's actually a pretty good thing, don't you think?
It's just becomes second nature. You shouldn't have to overthink it.
Correct.
It's especially if you guys, you and your wife speak the same love language. You can spin that to your kids as well. Like how how do they receive things? How do they uh, digest the world around them and take in the information, and then you just go with it. And me being a people person, an extrovert, I think just that's pretty natural. And so it comes second nature in the same way of directing, where you're asking about parallels earlier. You go with the flow. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. and you work towards the story. And sometimes the story is the game and the moment and the characters within it. Other times your story is just your kids' lives and your life and your partner's life.
Yeah, that's really, really well said. Peter Loomis is with me. I'm Brian Fenley. What is your love language?
Mm, Probably humor. Yeah.
Built up over time? How has it changed over the years or adapted or transformed?
I don't know. I mean, it's that plus quality time, which probably spins into itself. It's just like I said, I'm an extrovert. I like to be there, so I want to be there with my family, with my friends, um, and that's how I recharge.
What's quality time like you working on a broadcast?
What's quality time like me working on a broadcast?
Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe. Yeah, what moment is it before? Is it during? Is it after? Is it all of the above? Is it during certain times of those moments where you feel like you're able to address your love language during that which you work on?
That's an interesting way to put it. I mean, you have to assume I love my job, which I do, and
Sure, you
most
do.
people do. There's days you wake up and you don't want to, but this what we do is we're really lucky in this world, and that's a great thing about it. And we create a space for people to get away from whatever they're dealing with, if they need for God knows if they need a break from their partner or their kids or from their normal lives, we provide that. And I think that's probably what hits my love language there is just knowing that I'm providing an experience for somebody, that I'm there for them in a moment of either jubilation or if their team loses, despair, and being distraught for the next 24 or 72 hours. So that's probably it. It's probably that kind of that peak when you hear the crowd of the oohs and the ahs, and you're starting to feel it, and you get that adrenaline kind of going and pumping up inside you. Then you have to take that time after to decompress a little bit.
You get that energy from that adrenaline. I also know that, if I'm not mistaken, anytime before a broadcast, you have to have a certain coffee with you. I saw a couple of pictures with you where you've got a coffee there ready to go, getting ready for whatever broadcast you're doing. Well, what are we talking about? What kind of coffee are we having here as far as your typical protocol before a broadcast?
Oh, I mean, I'm a standard grande white mocha guy from Starbucks. That probably one of the Andrea Crawford over at Tupelo. She was always great about like just hey, you want a coffee and just getting me something. We speak that same language right there, especially when you work nights and you're waking up early in the day. You need to have that caffeine. And I worked at Starbucks for a long time. Not for a long time, but for a little bit in high school. So I gravitated towards that a little early. But I mean, we're right around the corner from fall, so pumpkin spice latte season. Now, I'm very strict with my time frame though. Like, yeah, it's out right now, and this is August, but like September 1st is the first day I can't go earlier than that. There
Really?
has to be boundaries in place. I'm a man of character, Brian.
So, what makes you think you're a man of character, and what makes you think you can't jump early into such things?
Well, fall things and like pumpkin stuff you can't start enjoying until September 1st, in my opinion. Halloween stuff doesn't come out until October. And then Christmas can't, winter season can't start until December 1st after Thanksgiving. That's what I live by, and we gotta stick to it.
So you strike me, Peter, as somebody who likes to have a lot of fun. Obviously, you're really good at what you do, but you like to have a lot of fun. But then I notice, like, Peter is strict. Like, you've got these certain timelines set up for coffee drinking. Where else are you very definitive in what has to
Well,
happen and
Brian,
when it
look, if
has to
if I
happen?
don't have strict guidelines about when the Christmas decoration can come out or Halloween, the house is just going crazy. They're just running rampant, and I'm not a very strict person, but I can't be having a Christmas tree sitting up in my living room all the way through until April. That just doesn't make sense. We can't be watching the NFL draft with red, white, red and colors and whites and all this other stuff, and cat trying to play with the Christmas ornaments on the tree and breaking something. I don't know. We got to put it away. We got to have our time frames.
I feel like there's a reasoning behind this. Maybe this has happened to you before, or something like that, where it's extended beyond its perceived time frame, and then you've had to embark on what that's like.
Well, an old friend of mine's father told me when I got married that gave me two pieces of advice. You can be right or you can be happy, and happy wife, happy life. So while I live with that, I just pretend I don't see that there's already a pumpkin candle burning in my house the week before Labor Day, and that there's a few pumpkin decorations and some fall leaves starting to pop up around the house. I just, keep my eyes on the prize, and then all of a sudden I've noticed that we just decorated really well all of a sudden the morning I wake up on September 1st.
Okay, so there's these strict guidelines at the house. Where are you a little bit more relaxed and open-minded about what goes on in the house?
Mm, um, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I am. I think I am. I'm
Wow.
usually pretty relaxed, open-minded, but I mean, I'm thinking about it, and when my kids want to watch Paw Patrol on a Saturday and I'm not working, or Sunday, and it's like no son, like my wife stepped in and she's like, "No, Notre Dame is on the TV. Your dad's watching Notre Dame. You cannot change this channel." Same with the Colts. So I mean, I guess maybe I'm not as free flowing as I thought I once was.
How much do you think in
Things
this
have really
conversation?
changed me.
Well, yeah, and now that you're saying all these things, how much, Peter, are you learning about yourself through this conversation? Because I'm sure that you were expecting that, or by expecting it, you were not expecting it.
I was not expecting it. I mean, you really got me on my toes here, Brian. This is a great. I should start paying you instead of my therapist.
Well, that's the thing is that so you just mentioned I got married recently and I got
You
married
did.
to a therapist. So I have a
Good for
feeling that
you.
some of that is rubbing off on me.
Hmm.
Now, I might not
I
have
feel
the
it.
yeah, you do. And I might not have the right certification for doing that, but I feel like it actually helps in interviewing. Like when you're
Hmm.
directing something, whether it's a live broadcast of a game or something where you're actually having an opportunity to have a sit down, when you have somebody, at least I like to think of myself as empathetic, when you have that driving you, how can that make an interview better from what you've seen as a director when you have somebody that really, I'm not trying to pump myself up here, but has that ability to kind of see through the surface?
Well, don't go. I mean, telling everybody those qualifications, you might get in trouble with a board of some sort or something like that. We don't need you getting, thrown in jail right now after doing this interview. But no, it's just immersing yourself into the experience that somebody else could be having, and listening, and not just talking, right? So that's the best thing, is that when you're conversational, is that you think maybe it's going to go one way, and then all of a sudden it just spins and goes in a completely different direction, right? Because you're listening, the other person's listening. We've all been in a situation, in a conversation, where you can tell that one person is just talking and they're not listening, right? And so with being a director, it's the same thing, but also with your eyes, right? So you're participating, you're engaged, you're active, you're listening, you're seeing the other person, you're seeing the moment, right? That was something I kind of experienced when I went to Sochi for the Olympics in 2014. Was that, when you're kind of boots on the ground there, and you're meeting normal everyday people on the train or whatever, you realize that we all in this world kind of have, at the core, the same principles and same things leading our life, right? You're looking for the basic primal stuff of food, shelter, water, right? But you're looking for experiences in either um, love, camaraderie. You're looking for family. We all kind of boil down to the same thing. We all just kind of want to have to live a life, right? And that's what it all boils down to.
When did you come to what you were just saying? When did you come to that realization?
Mm. I think it's just built up over time. Um, you know, I have a great friend of mine. We just went to Chicago together, drove 3 hours from Indianapolis, and he was, we were just kind of shooting it back and forth. And, he told me, he was like, something I really appreciate in you, and I think it's your greatest characteristic, is that you're a chameleon. I kind of can move along with anybody and everything. It's because I've had so many experiences with life. Growing up, 8 years old, I worked on a turkey farm. for doing stuff for Thanksgiving and prepping for families for that. I've volunteered. I have had friends who are, um, you know, by all means, very, very wealthy and very fortunate, and I've had the opposite
Yeah.
spectrum of it. I can see it, and I see everybody for who they are in the moment that they are, and I try to do that. And just having different experiences and where I can go camping and rough it with a 70-pound pack, hiking through the wilderness in Canada. I also can be bougie and go to Florence for my honeymoon, and enjoy that. It's just being able to move within it. And I think a lot of that is because, you listen to people and you interact with people and you're just there in the moment to be part of an experience. Um, and that helps a ton. I think it's just been built up over time. It's just something I kind of learned throughout life.
Peter Loomis is with me. I'm Brian Fenley. The way in which you communicate, and you see it in you're talking about, we're working in a field where you have to be able to talk, whether that's the broadcaster or those who are working in the truck. How selective? Because we're also talking about listening and when you have to listen and the power of that. When are you, as a director, finding it the right time to talk when those moments pop up? How judicious are you with your words? And then the times in which you want to say them, how much thought do you put into that?
It's funny. I do a lot of talking, and then when I get really serious, all of a sudden I can go pretty quiet. And that's part of when things get really exciting, especially in a game. You want to reset the truck or make sure that everybody is aware of the moment, and it's not in a way of like thinking down of your coworkers in that moment. It's just of reminding everybody, like, because we're all in this because we love to do it, right? We get excited on a big play. We know a big moment when it happens. You have to just kind of reset everybody to remember, like, we each have a job to do. Don't get too caught up in the moment. Don't give the wrong team the wrong point. Something might happen. We need to hear if there's a whistle for an immediate timeout. So it's bringing it all back kind of down and then just being punctual with what you say and when you say it.
If you were to be punctual in what you say and how you describe it, being working or having the opportunity, I would think the exciting opportunity, the enviable opportunity of working on a turkey farm, and how you brought up we're talking about holidays here, and
Mhm.
how you're very regimented about, okay, we're going to celebrate this holiday here and then. If it's time for the pumpkin spice latte, there's only a finite amount of days and weeks that you can do that in the fall, Christmas and Thanksgiving. So I'm thinking to myself, turkey, Christmas, this idea of you being so disciplined with your holidays, is this connected to the 8-year-old self that was working on a turkey farm?
Mm, it could be. Yeah, I definitely could see it. I mean, I was also the kid that walked into the farm and would go gobble gobble and they'd all react. I wanted to get that rise out of the turkeys.
Then what happened? What else would you do when you were working with the turkeys?
Well, you're gonna have to re-rate this program if we start talking about it and going down that, Brian. Okay, like, I don't know if you understand how food works, brother.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. You are now going, as we transition back into the workplace, you're transitioning into a new exciting chapter of your life. Where do you foresee this going?
Hopefully, well, still got bills to pay. But I foresee this as in a way that I can interact with more people, new people, continue maintaining the relationships with the folks and the individuals that I've had in the past. Because I've loved the coworkers that I've had over at Tupelo for the last 10 years. We've seen some come and go. We've seen some leave and come back. And thankfully, we're not leaving Indianapolis anytime soon. So they're still just right down the road from me there. Our folks, Dover and Charlotte office as well. So I, you know, God willing, I think I'll still be able to see all those people and my friends and interact with them on a show. And if not, then we'll grab some food and a drink together at some other point when they're in Indianapolis. But I think the future of this is just grinding and working hard. I thoroughly enjoy um, just picking something up and going and asking someone like, what can I do to help? What's next? And I think that's where this will go in the future. Is just going to be, getting a call and seeing where I need to go and how can I help someone.
It's all going to work out for you. You're too talented for it not to. Final question for you. Peter Loomis is with me. I'm Brian Fenley. The idea of relationships, you were talking about that and how so many of them you've solidified over the course of your career. And obviously that plays a part in your future and in working with so many great people. What makes a good relationship in this industry? And how do you have to almost cultivate it?
I think you're dropping your ego. I remember really early on there was a situation where before I started directing, I was doing a lot of replay, and we were using new tech products. And we were on a show. I driven over to a couple of my coworkers, and I were on separate shows actually, but I drove over to meet them for a CBS sports basketball game. I wanted to sit in the truck and just watch at that time my boss direct and see what he's doing, and then stick my head into the tape room and get a little experience there. And this gentleman named Joel, he's an amazing EVS up in Chicago. I met him a couple times before and worked with him, and I was like, "Hey, can you show me how to do this? Whatever." It's like, "Yeah, yeah." And this guy kept looking over at us that was sitting in the other chair, and Joel doesn't really take anything from anyone. It was just kind of like, what do you keep looking at me for? Like he didn't know. It's like, what do you want? And he's like, why are you teaching this kid to take your job? And he's like, no, I'm not taking, I'm not doing that. And I laughed and I was like, I'm not taking this dude's job. Like Joel is one of the best EVS ops I've ever seen. And there's no way that I'm going to get to that level. And he was kind of like, when there is a, you drop your ego and you learn to mentor somebody. Sometimes you'll take more pride out of that than what you can do. And then maybe it's time to walk away from it or whatever, if you hit that moment. But um, you, if you can drop your ego, you can create amazing relationships in this industry because you're helping other people. It's how, I mean, dozen people or more per show at whatever level it is to you have to interact with directly to get this. You get more out of it when I give my cam ops more control or the power to know that they can be creative or they can sell something. They might know a team better than I do because they're local to the area. Dropping my ego and saying I don't know everything, but these individuals, they might know something that I don't, and being able to absorb that information is it's important. And so I think it all does come down to learning to put your ego aside. And again, listening, like as we've been talking here today, listening and seeing everything in the moment.
It's only fitting that we end the conversation there because you, I think, at the heart of who you are and the theme. If I'm looking for the theme of this conversation, it is you as the chameleon. Not unless you are a chameleon can you have that perspective about what you were just discussing about the mentorship and the adapting and what it means to drop the ego. You can't do that unless you have that chameleon like mentality. Peter Loomis, I'm Brian Fenley. Thanks so much, man, for doing this. This was a heck of a fun time. I know we went some fun places, and I appreciate you going on this adventure with me here.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, brother.